Hello Targar friends. Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for another Orc Mode workout. Today was max effort upper day. But a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos, please click like down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied today. So let's just get over to the training. Alright, so here's what I more or less said I'm going to do. I'm focus back on the close gripping. So what I'm best at, easiest on my shoulders. Just going to run with it, and I'll continue to use dips and other things to build my pecs. And I had said yesterday, or the day before, whatever it was, in the other vlog, I may be just dropping the incline. It's getting to be too much for my shoulders still. It's keeping them inflamed. And when I only did a max on it, and no real rep work, my shoulders feel a lot better today. Started doing just more rotator cuff work again. Let's be honest, I don't need incline or overhead right now to build my bench. I need to get my bench up and keep my shoulders healthy, and I'm not going to do anything that inflames them. This didn't cause any inflammation or pain in my shoulders at all. Hit a nice, decent little training max. And yeah, I'm using the monolift. Why? Even easier on the shoulders. I haven't been real keen on it for squatting since I got it, but for benching, it sure lets me just unrack straight. Right? You just lift it and then bench. There is no unracking it. We don't lose any shoulder tightness. Easier on the shoulders, and of course you get a lift off in comp. So I'm going to run with it for a bit. Again, what I need to do to keep my shoulders super healthy so that I can get back under a power bar again. And that's what people need to grasp. Even though my shoulder had been rehabbed enough for me to hit some, 340 plus benches, it is not rehabbed enough for me to get under a power bar for a squat. And when I say get under it, I mean I can't get the bar on my back. So that may be different today. It actually feels good enough today. I feel like I could probably get under one if I had to. But I'm still going to do cambered bar tomorrow. We're going to just blow up my pecs and triceps. And it's going to be the same programming I've been running for lower. Same sort of programming I'm using to bring my squats up. We're just going to do it on bench. We're going to work at close grip variations. We're going to do a couple different barbells. Do bands and chains. Then run the same volume percentages I do for squats. It works. It's very workable. So I came in and I did with this bar, and this bar again, more difficult for a lot of people. We did a 272 plus 60 pounds of bands. Now keep in mind, I'm one of those guys that I don't lock much more on bands than I can bench. My lockout is what gets me on the bench. I explode off my chest. It's the top half of the movement. Well, the bands are fully kicked in by then. So people need to understand when we're dealing with bands, they're not like chains. And I'm going to rotate back and forth between bands and chains. Probably for squatting and the benching, I'll rotate bars. And for benching, I got 2 bars I'm comfortable with. And I'm not worried about the football bar for now because I'm going to have the hands at a different angle when I do dips. And that's the beauty of what I'm doing with this. You guys will notice I'm making sure I'm hitting different hand angles, different angles on everything. Because I'm not doing a lot of exercise variation inside of a single session, I need the exercises to vary quite a bit while still hitting the muscles I need. And I'm not going to worry about building delts. I'll let all my pulling build my delts. And we're getting front delts with all this. This stuff all hits my upper chest, particularly the dips. The dips hit my entire chest. My whole chest hurts from dips. Right? I'm very chest dominant on the dip, probably because it's probably a weak link. But for benching, I need more pec and way more tricep. It's what we have to have, especially if I'm going to go back with just close grip. And, at some point I might mess with, if my shoulder health allows for it, I might mess with some reverse grip. I haven't done it in a long time. I used to be pretty strong on the reverse grip. So, we might mess with it too. But for this stuff, that's what I hit today. And again, keeping in mind, when we start getting to the halfway point, which is where I tend to stick, the bands are pretty much where it's 60 pounds by then. That is how bands work. They're not like chains to where every inch adds the same amount. So each link weighs the same amount on the way up. It's not the same thing. Bands have a completely different curve. And also, if you guys notice against the heavy band work, I have a faster eccentric. It forces me into it. And that might be something that'll be useful to me. I've noticed that on max benches before with bands. It tends to jerk me into that eccentric, and I struggle to lower the bar quickly. So it might help there too. But, so then we did on those, we did of course 70%. And I had to go a little heavier than that on the band tension. So I did 70% on the bar, and it's technically 75% of my bands on it for 3 sets of 10, and I got all of them. They were challenging, and everything's pause too. Everyone should notice that. All my benching is going to be pause. I need to build more chest. We need to explode off the chest, and I need to be able to drive through. So I'll do everything paused, and then I'm going to do dips. I'll get my stretch reflex on the dips. Dips hit my chest super hard. Now I feel a lot of lateral tricep on them also. Feel a lot of lateral tricep on them also, but you guys will also notice that I generally tend to lean forward a bit. So that's one of the things that comes up too. People will say, well, why is your elbow not locked? Well, number one, my elbows don't seem to lock by what a lot of people's standards are. They just don't. That's my skeletal structure. And that doesn't affect muscle development. People have that kind of confusion, like, oh, would that contribute to? No, that's not how it works. Your muscle fibers only go really as far as they go. But that's a whole nother topic. But the dips, I decided to just do 45 pounds, 3 sets of 10, and then AMRAP the last one. Now I've noticed it's hard after I do all that other work, because those other sets were challenging. And I felt a lot of chest on all that benching. These are pretty hard to do, so I'm a little weaker on dips right after benching. So we're going to get strong with building the work capacity here, and we're going to use dips to blow up my pecs and triceps further. But the other thing to notice we're getting a different angle, because the palms are facing each other, right? And we're at a different torso angle, like the shoulder angle is different. So I'm picking 2 lifts that will really let me move a lot of weight, that will put a lot of overall muscle on me, but we're getting some good variation. This is more of a stretch reflex one. Palms are facing each other. So the hand angle is different, like a multi-grip bar. And I got 11 reps and then I hit failure. I got 11 reps and then I failed. So that lets me know that we were pretty much 1 rep in reserve on the first 2. So we need to do those AMRAPs on stuff we don't have maxes on to test that. So I'll be doing more and more of that. Then the JM presses. Of course, there's always some criticism with my JM presses. I am literally trying to keep my elbows up and keep it tucked. Now, this wasn't the best camera angle, and I didn't realize it till after I filmed it. That post is kind of in the way. When I'm doing the JM presses, I am actually trying to keep my elbows up. So just a heads up for Justin, who's a great coach himself and a great lifter, who always comments. That's literally trying to keep my elbows up. And I've noticed a lot of lifters struggle with that on this. So what I might have to do, I might reduce the weight of hair. I might reduce the weight of hair next time, just to see if I can keep the elbows up a little higher. But these were super hard. Like, I'm almost rest pausing the last few reps to even get to 10. And I did 97, and the reason I did 97 instead of 95, I have those spacers in between. Those spacers are just over 1 pound. That lets me get the plates further away from everything, and especially with the monolift. One of the big perks with the monolift, I'm less likely to hit uprights in general. Now the JM press is probably a little bit still of a risk because of the plates can get turned a little sideways. But the spacers help so that I'm not hitting stuff, and then the monolift helps. Probably needed a hair higher for this bar because I left it on the setting for the Buffalo bar. But still, the idea is that it gets a lot more stuff out of the way. So it can be helpful. But it probably, they needed to be higher for the JM press. So the same height I'll use for the regular close grip, because that Buffalo bar brings the ends down, several inches. I'm a whole notch lower with where I set them. And you guys see the same thing. I'm hitting my head trying to get out from under there. But we did 3 sets of 10 on these. And they were pretty challenging. And like I said, in order to get the elbows up a little higher, I might need to actually reduce the weight a little bit and just check my ego. So we'll think about doing that next time, because really we're getting all the big movements. This is really just to come in and hammer my triceps in a way that carries over to the bench and to really hit that medial head, because we need that medial head to come up more. And I don't feel it as much on the dips. I feel a lot of lateral head, and a lot of coaches like Louise Simmons feel the lateral head doesn't carry over too much to the bench. But, again, just getting strong at the dips in general will help. So the bench training is going to be very simple. My bench programming is going to be real simple right now. We're going to come in and do roughly sets of 10 for rep work. We're going to max out on close grip variations. I'm going to use a couple different bars, and I could switch to even other bars that I have. I have other bars I can bench with. I've got an axle bar, I've got a football bar. I'm going to rotate bands and chains, track each one as a separate thing, hit a good training max. We're going to try not to miss lifts, and we're going to program off those training maxes. And whatever lift I do for the max, I'm going to do 3x10 at 70% of it. We're going to come in and do dips and dip variations. What do you mean variations? I can hook chains and stuff up to the dips. In fact, I've done it. I can even do bands over dips. Okay. Main thing is taking them to pretty much failure, and keep working the work capacity up. So again, maximizing my pec and tricep development. That is what I have to do. They have to get bigger for my bench to go up. And then we're going to do a lot of tricep work and a whole lot of back work. Okay. So in keeping with the theme, it's still going to be 10 sets for the middle and upper back for now per session. So the total pressing is, again, not counting triceps or maxes, is 6 sets twice a week. Still 12 total sets, but considering we're maxing and adding tricep work, that's at a good point, considering they're limit sets and they're programmed. That is actually reasonable. The back, because I need my rear delts and everything, and upper back to get stronger for all 3 of my lifts, and I need those rear delts to get bigger, and the rotator cuffs and everything associated with it, like the infraspinatus, to get stronger, to get my shoulder health on point. We're gonna put a little more volume into the back. Now, I might drop these down to 3 sets each so I can push harder progression, and then if my shoulders still feel good, and I'll assess it, because these never seem to bother my shoulders, I may work this like snatch grip high pulls back in. So then I end up doing 9 total sets instead of 10, like 3-3-3. Because we could argue that anything beyond 3 sets of an exercise is potentially doesn't always do as much as we would like. I'm only doing this with the 5 sets of these 2 for a short time, just to get a little stronger, get a little bit of volume in, and then I'll rotate towards faster progression. But we are working on progression here, because what did we do on the rows? I went up 5 more pounds. So I'm at 195 today. Now, I'd love to get these up to, and I know I will, because my lats tend to get strong real quick on new exercises. I'd like to get these up to 225 for 3x10. But I think that's reasonable, perfectly reasonable. And, one of the things that gets noted too is sometimes ranges of motion. Technically, this would be touching my chest if I had a straight bar. But we can't get past that, the bench, obviously, and that camber allows me to get to the bench. So there's a reason I'm using that. But the real thing, so that's actually definitely the full range of motion for me at the top. The bottom, it's a little bit loose due to the setup, and I've tried everything. And that's okay. The only other thing that might change is if I grip a hair wider. And this is going to be my wider grip for now. This is going to be a little more rear delt focused. You guys will see what I do with the inverted rows in a minute. This is the wider grip. Pulled a little higher on the chest. Right? And look at the angle. The angle, I'm not 90 degrees. I'm more towards the feet. Okay, so a 90 degree would be your torso completely flat. My torso's at an angle. That makes it slightly more upper back, a little more rear delt. Now, both of these exercises are upper back, lats, and biceps, forearms. Okay. Notice today. Now, notice the angle is different. The hands are closer to the face instead of towards the feet. So if you look at the shoulder angle, that makes a little more lat, and a little less rear delt. Okay. The slightly closer grip, the same thing. By rotating the hands under this different grip, we get a lot more bicep and less forearm, right? Less brachialis, radial brachialis, all of that. So even though these are both a row and they hit all the same muscles, the emphasis and the angles are different. So these 2 together give me a lot of variation, especially when I go to this underhand grip. And I'm not real big on other rows with the underhand grip. I think there's risk to it. This isn't so bad, right? And I felt a nice good bicep pump, nice good lat pump from it. And only on the last set I show you guys loading and unloading the chains. This is the one thing I'm clipping out of all these workouts, and it's because it's really tedious to load the chains on and off. It's literally adding 2 minutes, 3 minutes to the video for 5 sets, and we don't need that. But the last set, I show you guys just some of the loading and unloading of the chains, and I took the last set to failure. So, and I did like 11 on the fourth one, so I did 10, 10, 10, because they felt challenging. I'm getting used to the exercise. 11, I knew I had at least one in reserve, so I went for 11 on the fourth, and the last one I took it to failure. Just like with the dips, I went to failure. I got 12. 13th rep, I couldn't move out of the bottom. So, again, we know roughly where the strength is. There's room to progress on these movements. Room to progress on these movements. And I can do the AMREPs like that to assess if I'm close or not, or I need to be adding weight quicker. And in this case, we just add more chains. But I'm really happy with today's workout. Everything went great. My shoulder, actually, I feel nothing in it right now. Let's hope that continues. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.